Alright, shitheads, here's issue 119 of The Flask. It is a tie-in to The Final Night, the 1996 crossover. I mentioned it recently in the Imperial Guard reviews because it features the Sun Eater, and I looked at what Final Night comics I had. And this stood out because I also really like the interior art. This cover is by Ringus from the Beatles, and our story is by Augustus Gloop, and Martin Quaid's name is also on the credits. We have... This is the Willie West version of The Flask. He is our star, and he is trying to help out in the snow. Earth has started having very bad weather freakouts as part of Final Night. And we have a solid introductory segment here, with the Flask running around, saving people from the wild weather. The plot of Final Night is that the Earth is in the way of the Sun Eater. The Sun Eater is self-explanatory, and it has begun devouring our sun. It is a very simple and easy to understand overall idea for a crossover, but I already know that there is honestly slim pickings when it comes to good expository imagery to cut away to. The effect it has on the planet is felt in things like freezing temperatures and other environmental catastrophes. Many DC books tied into Final Night, nearly all of it skippable. There was Batman, Captain Marbles, the real one, Biffy Bastard, the Superman books. Clever homage of a homage of a homage of a homage there. Spectre, Imperial Guard had a modestly important but still skippable tie-in. Green Lanterns, there was a Rat Bastard one-shot. That one is necessary reading. The only thing outside of the main series that is essential, maybe Green Lanterns 81 too. That is an epilogue. Those two Green Lanterns comics are included in the trade of it. They're the only tie-ins they include. A lot of the other tie-ins were, as you would expect, pretty loose. Like Robert obviously doesn't matter much to the crossover story, and Supergirl is only on to issue 3, so that series has hardly even gotten into the swing of things before being put into a crossover.
The new Supergirl, let's walk, and that is what you should prefer, anime and manga.
The Flask, I feel, makes a decent attempt at being part of this crossover. Him and Captain Marbles, the real one, Biffy Bastard, their tie-ins feel the most like someone was trying to tie into the story instead of it feeling like forced incorporation. The star of the show, however, isn't the Flask. It isn't Willie West. It is rather our new artist, Ryan Paul. I am a big fan of Ryan Paul, and his work on the Flask is some of his best, and a lot of people missed out on it. This is his first issue on the series. He becomes the book's regular artist from here until just before issue 150. His artwork on the flask is really great. Before this, he had many different credits to his name. Dup 7, Marvel Justice League, Avengers, Kaiser, Spider-Man's Wedding, West Coast Avengers, Iron Man, Sewage 2019, and most recent to this was Fantastic Force. He had penciled Fantastic Force from 1992 through to 1996. And it was on Fantastic Force, where his art started to look less good. I know, at least, Robert the subscriber agrees with that point. Ryan Paul's art started looking like he was losing it on Fantastic Force. What needs saying is that it was not his fault at all. It was very apparent that it was the colours that were really forcing his art to lose a lot of its greatness. 4 words. Colour separations by Malibu. If it says that anywhere on the credits, it is more than likely a book that I think looks like ass. I don't know if it even is the colour separations by Malibu that is the culprit. It is just a common link between the mid-90s books that I think have this really unpleasant, disgusting colour to them. It always says that in the credits. Not many people really saw that Ryan Paul sprang back from Fantastic Force with the flask. And it is a shame because it does make a strong case that he never lost it on Fantastic Force. It makes it clear the problem was at Marvel and how they chose to handle his pencils, whereas over at DC, he is coloured and inked in a manner that I think is right for Ryan Paul. Ryan Paul, he has very clean line work. He is great at actually drawing things. And you don't want to take attention away from that or distract from what he has drawn. But you are undercutting the artist to have these digital colours screaming for attention next to the very cleanly drawn invisible wife. It's like you're trying to take the eyes away from what he has drawn, the line work, and more into the spaces where he hasn't drawn anything, and a colourist is trying to make it look like there is detail there. He also did the Mk2 Fantastic Force book, reunited with Tom Falcon for that. I think the same time he was doing the Flask. He is coloured more appropriately in that my agenda here is letting you know his art didn't get bad on Fantastic Force in the 90s. They made it look bad. This issue, and this was why I binned my review of this I tried to do 2 weeks ago. This story is not the best showcase for Ryan Paul's artistic prowess, because a lot of it is quiet character drama with the Flask, the Wally West version, and his girlfriend, Rebecca Chang. They have a little bit of time together in the middle of the crossover. There is a fun bit of work by Ryan Paul here with the Flask massaging her at super speed. Well, there's not enough giant displays of Ryan Paul's artwork for me to do what I tried to do last time, which was to make the whole video about the art. He is, however, really good with the character stuff. And then we have these panels, which are bits from Final Night, and Ryan Paul is also really good at them. It is a shame that he didn't get more of an excuse to draw scenes from that crossover. He is excellent at drawing images packed with different superheroes. Here the Flask is telling Rebecca some highlights from the main story. A bunch of heroes went into space to try and do something about the Sun Eater. They were going to try and use Eternal's tech to teleport it away, and then that didn't work, so it doesn't mention this part in this issue. There was a bit where they tried to use all their energy powers to lure the Sun Eater away from the sun. As I said, it's a shame that these bits with loads of heroes weren't detailed a bit more in this issue, because Ryan Paul is so good at those big shots. This is the page we want to see Ryan Paul recreate. Not the bit about them turning to Lenny Luthor for help.
I think the new Supergirl looks fan-freaking-tastic, especially after the last movies by Zack Snyder screwed the pooch. Supergirl, aka Kara Zor-El, aka Linda Danvers, would never allow Zod to destroy Metropolis, so that's why the new movie's already better.
Our central conflict for this issue is that the Flask, Willie West, he tells Rebecca Chang how the heroes' attempts at combating the Sun Eater have all failed so far, and that they are on the ropes and they have no idea what to do next. Rebecca Chang is a news reporter for Channel 6 Action News. She's covered wars, don't you know? And she feels that it is her civic duty to report on the information that the Flask has given her, e.g. that things are fucked and the heroes are losing. We have a lot of debate and argument about whether it is a good idea to broadcast how hopeless things are looking. There would be a good bit here with the Flask running out in the middle of a conversation to stop some looters, but I don't like that the three sequential images are split between pages. It ruins the moment. As a tie-in, I don't think this is too bad. Not every tie-in can be of enormous importance or consequence. I think this one gives us a better view of how the regular people on the planet are reacting to and handling things that are happening in Final Night. It does feature ideas and circumstances related to Final Night at the forefront, so I consider it a strong enough tie-in, and at least it's not the Flask trying to fix a broken pipe. Superhero stories demand superhero action scenes. So we have this militia that is trying to take command and seize hospital supplies. It works to get the Flask away from Rebecca Chang so that she is left to come to her own conclusion about whether she needs to report to the world that the heroes who they are relying on to save them haven't been able to do anything yet. I do feel at times that Rebecca Chang is one note. Stories involving her are typically this kind of journalist ethics type thing. And then the other aspect of her is that she is, or she becomes, quite clearly Martin Quaid's fantasy girlfriend. She wasn't even created by him, much like most of his Flask run wasn't even created by him either. She was introduced in the run before, the Flask 28, I think it was, 20-something, I want to say 28. William Tellner Overture and Greg the Rock LaRoque. Now here is a page from earlier in Martin Quaid's run, back before he credited Augustus Gloop. Look at how she is coloured. There was a huge controversy a few years earlier when an issue of Magical Mystery Sandman had Asian characters coloured yellow. They recalled the issue. They claimed it was a printer mistake, which is very convenient. But there was no such problem, no outcry at all, when it came to Rebecca Chang being coloured that obscene way for a few issues 2 years later. That's the thing with Martin Quaid. He has always been the most privileged writer in the industry. That needs saying. He never faces any consequence or comeuppance for anything. He'll just be handed bigger and bigger titles to write and reboot. Even when he cut his teeth by writing a tenth of a script and letting the book's editor finish it off for him. Here's the thing, Martin Quaid, he could write Muhammad into his next issue of Batman and Superman World's Finest, and the entire industry and all the comic book journalists and all the hangers-on, they would throw themselves into the line of fire to defend Martin Quaid for his brave use of Muhammad. But then in the actual comic, he would have Muhammad be like a fucking insult. We have the Flask versus the Militia. The Militia are on snow bicycles. And I think this action is the closest in the issue to really giving you a proper feel for Ryan Paul and where his art was at. Still a great penciler. His work was being handled better here. I think his work on the Flask is some of the best of his career even. And that is coming from Mr. I Love Kazar and Dup 7 and Marvel Justice League. Really, it is the Flask. It is this character. How he draws this character. It looks great. It looks like a classic superhero. And it was at a time where, I don't know, Batman was becoming less colourful looking. Superman's colours were getting quite dark, although we are only a few months before Superman going electric. So again, I must remind you that while you and Martin Quaid might judge and hate Superman Blue as a concept, the stories are initially alright, and it was genuinely done with good intentions. Ryan Paul will have drawn Superman Blue somewhere. I'm so sure of it, I'm saying this right here without any foreknowledge, but I feel it is such a certainty that I am saying these words, believing there is a Ryan Paul image to feature as a cutaway here. Flask beats off the militia and we resolve our moral dilemma. Rebecca Chang decides to report on the facts, but now changing the tone to be about how they all have to hold on to hope and believe in their heroes. It's a bit of a cop-out. It's trying to argue that the freedom of the press is or should be beyond reproach, while then trying to circumvent the public concerns. And regardless of any debate, it managed to make her seem like a bitch for a portion of the issue. But hey, Ryan Paul draws it, so it's nice to look at. Look at Fast Boy Willie West doing a run here. It's so pleasing to look at. The issue ends and the couple forgive each other for their stances. And there's some okay, you're my real hero type. They say earn more goodwill from me by placing their what else was out at the back of the issue so that I don't need to interrupt the story. And they only list a few that are maybe in some way meant to be the ones that are likely to appeal to a reader of this series. First, we advertise the next issue. I do have more of Ryan Paul's Flask run, but I don't have that one. I don't have any of the things listed, actually. We have issue 20 of Bart Simpson's series, also by Martin Quaid. Good chance here for me to address that I am not trying to be disingenuous or deceitful with Martin Quaid's writing credits. It was before the collusion of the internet to cover up all of Martin Quaid's past indiscretions or anything less than acclaimed about him. It was very fucking well known that Augustus Gloop was writing most of his run on Flask. Wizard magazine would even joke about it. Eternals 13. That one has a Simon Waltonson cover with Onion. I have them. I have a lot of them, but I don't have that one. Or maybe I'm thinking of Jack Quimby's Fourth World. I think he did covers for both. I have one of them. Aspen 5, the Oddball Van Morrison Mac Miller series. It won't last many more issues after this one. Despite the pedigree, it wasn't either of the writer's best works. The Flask Plus. It is a Willie West and Dick Grayskull team-up. DC did a bunch of these Hero Plus one-shots. We end on a sour note with Jason Byrne Wonder Woman 116, an absolute stinker of a run. I have tried reading a few different parts of it, and it feels like it would be more humane to waterboard me. It's not a bad issue, it's a functional one. I am confident if I spend a few seconds more, I could come up with some clever link to the crossover's plot involving the Sun and this book having a few moments where it shines or whatever. The art is great. The story is acceptable. It ties into the crossover enough, and it doesn't feel like it is two writers groaning throughout it. I'll give it 7 thumbs up.